With Frederica Whitfield.
Thanks, Arthel. Well, tonight we begin in Northern California, where a husband is behind bars suspected of murdering his wife and the couple's unborn 8-month-old baby. CNN's Rusty Dornan joins us with what's happening there tonight. Rusty?
Well, Frederica, Scott Peterson was arrested in San Diego yesterday morning, but did not arrive here at the Stanislaus County Jail until midnight last night. He was greeted by a crowd of jeering residents carrying signs. Now, you can see from this booking photo, it's a very different looking Scott Peterson. He's dyed his hair, he's grown a goatee, he's even lost some weight. Police said that was one of the reasons they wanted to take him into custody. They were fearful with him living down in San Diego that he might slip across the border and they might lose their chance to arrest him. Now, here in Modesto, it's a very different scene. For the past 4 months, we've looked around. There's always been the missing signs of Laci Peterson everywhere you look. Those are gone. There's a sense of loss for many people who feel that they knew Laci Peterson personally. It's rare to see a photograph of Laci Peterson where you don't see this, the 1,000-watt smile guaranteed to light up a room. Stacy Boyers went to elementary school with Laci. In January, Boyers told CNN that enthusiasm was Laci's middle name.
Laci is always smiling, no matter where we are, what we're doing. She's always bubbly and talkative, and she's usually the center of attention.
Like when she was a cheerleader at Downey High School in Modesto, California. Always confident, always charming. Then it was on to San Luis Obispo to college. Her brother says she wasn't your typical college student. Forget the keg parties. Laci would take her big brother wine tasting. Here at the Pacific Cafe in Morro Bay, Scott Peterson waited on tables. Laci was one of his customers. They dated and 2 years later were married. Cafe owner Abba Imani says the young woman always seemed very happy.
Because she was sweet and always smiled and laughed every time they came and ate here after even they got married.
Married and still in college, Laci and Scott opened this burger joint, then called The Shack. Blake and Christine Reed remember Laci and Scott throwing gourmet dinner parties at their home. In this photo, the Reeds say Laci crashed the guy's cigar-smoking huddle on the patio and wanted to be part of the picture. According to the Reeds, Laci and Scott made no secret of the fact they wanted to move on.
They wanted to buy a home and they wanted to go someplace where their family was there to help support them.
Laci's hometown, Modesto, was that place. She was very close to her family, especially her mom, Sharon, for whom Laci's disappearance was pure agony.
I love my daughter so much. I miss her every minute of every day. I miss seeing her. I miss our talks together. I miss listening to the excitement in her voice when she talks to me about her baby.
The baby already had a name, Connor, and he had a small room painted bright blue in their home on Covina Avenue, ready and waiting just days before Christmas. That's when Laci last spoke to her mother.
She was fine. She was looking forward to Christmas Eve. They were coming to our house for dinner.
It never happened. What did was beyond any mother's nightmare. Now outside the house where Laci Peterson dreamed of a new family, a shrine to her and her unborn son. Tammy Krause, a family friend, felt she had to come.
She was great for this neighborhood, let me put it that way. She really was. She was involved in everything, and she was just a great little girl. And we're going to miss her a lot.
Since we took those pictures of that shrine out at the house just a few hours ago, it's almost doubled in size. People continue to come by and give mementos, light a candle, or leave a note to Laci and her unborn son, Connor. Meantime, the family is asking to being left alone this weekend, but they do say they are going to give a public statement on Monday afternoon. Frederica?
Now, Rusty, what about Scott Peterson's family members? We've never really heard much from them. Anything since his arrest?
Nothing since his arrest. We understand Scott's made a few phone calls from inside the jail, but apparently there have been no inquiries that we know of that for the family to come visit here. There were some visiting hours this morning. They are ongoing right now, but no one has seen any sign of Scott Peterson's family yet.
All right, Rusty, thank you very much. Well, the families of 7 former POWs are on pins and needles right now, waiting for the return of those service people. The 7 boarded a flight at Ramstein Air Base in Germany this morning for the 13-hour ride home. Some of them posed for a quick picture before grabbing their seats. Shoshana Johnson, who was shot in both ankles when her unit was ambushed, was carried on board on a stretcher. But she's apparently in good spirits, waving to the cameras and holding up a V sign there for victory. The plane is expected to arrive in Texas a couple of hours from now. First stop will be home of the Army's 507th Maintenance Company in Fort Bliss in West Texas. After the 5 POWs from the 507th are dropped off, the flight will head across Texas to Fort Hood near Killeen, and there the 2 Apache chopper pilots will be reunited with their loved ones. Our Susan Candiani is awaiting the POW's arrival at Fort Hood, and Ed Lavandera is covering the homecoming in the making at Fort Bliss. And let's begin with Susan.
Hello, Frederica. On a very windy day here at Fort Hood, Texas, we traveled here this day with the family of pilot Ronald Young, while my colleague Jamie Colby has been staying in touch throughout these past 3 weeks with the wife of pilot David Williams, that's Michelle Williams. Now, the Youngs flew in this day from Atlanta, Georgia. His parents, his 2 brothers, and 2 sisters and the spouses, all anxious for that reunion, just as the Williams family is looking forward to it. Both families know each other. They have since before the war started. This ordeal clearly has brought them together. Now, both pilots are said to be fit and in good spirits. Certainly they were as they left Landstuhl Regional Medical Center in Germany this day. Ronald Young waving the American flag, and a colonel there saying that all of the former POWs have been catching up on the news and movies of all things. Now, the Youngs have not yet had a chance to see that videotape of Ronald Young waving the American flag, but of course they'll probably have an opportunity to do so now that they arrived here at Fort Hood. I think it's a good bet that Michelle Williams has seen it by now. The family's joy is obvious, yet they never seem to miss a chance whenever they speak before the microphones to remember the pain of those who will not be seeing their sons and daughters, those who won't be coming home.
We're still praying for those boys that are missing in action right now, and for all the soldiers that we have out there. I just like to see no more lives lost in this thing, and everybody be able to come on back home and let that company get on with its business like it's supposed to.
And Michelle Williams, of course, is waiting for her husband. They have 2 children. It was her husband, you'll recall, who was the one who stuck his head out of a window in Iraq and caught the attention of the Marines, who might possibly have missed the rescue if it were not for him. Now, just an interesting note also, on Sunday, tomorrow morning, President Bush will be traveling here to Fort Hood, Texas. He will be attending an Easter Sunday morning service. It is possible he will be meeting with some of the troops, including the pilots, although there is no official word on that as yet. One more interesting note here, it was because of the generosity of Delta Airlines that flew the Young family out here. They were able to fly for free. Unfortunately, they will have to pay for their accommodations here at the Army base, although at a reduced rate. They will have to pay for their rooms here. Now for what is happening with as the Fort Bliss awaits, the former POWs who will be arriving there first, let's join my colleague Ed Lavandera at Fort Bliss.
Hi, Susan. Well, here in Fort Bliss, what you see behind me is the tarmac where the C-17 will be landing with the 7 former prisoners of war. And there will also be here in a short while another aircraft that will pick up the 2 Apache pilots and fly them from Fort Bliss to Fort Hood later on this evening after the 5 soldiers of the 507th Maintenance Company are dropped off here. At some point later on this evening, we're anticipating that the flight will be arriving here at Fort Bliss sometime between 6 and 8 Mountain Time. That's between 8 and 10 Eastern Time, but we were told just a little while ago that appears to be more likely around the 8 o'clock Mountain Time hour, so 10 o'clock Eastern for everyone, and we will be bringing those pictures to you live here. That aircraft will land in the area you see behind me, and then the soldiers will be brought in across this tarmac area, and over there in the distance where you see officials putting up the barriers, the public here in El Paso has been invited to attend this brief ceremony, understated ceremony, welcoming home the soldiers of the 507th Maintenance Company. We're told that they're expecting about 1,000 people to turn out. And of course, many of those people that will be turning out here are the wives and spouses of the other soldiers in the 507th Maintenance Company. This unit is still overseas in Iraq doing their jobs, and so many of the families here still haven't been able to see their spouses. These are only the soldiers that are coming home since they were prisoners of war. So a lot of support coming from those family members to welcome home the soldiers of the 507th Maintenance Company, and they understand there will be a band here. But officials here at this base say they're reserving perhaps the more grandiose homecoming for when all of the soldiers from the 507th Maintenance Company are able to return home from the Middle East. That's the story here from Fort Bliss. Now back to you.
All right, Ed Lavandera, thank you very much, and Susan Candiati as well. Well, President Bush is spending the holiday weekend at his Texas ranch, and he's using the break to reflect on the season and rejoice over the homecoming of those 7 former American POWs. Let's go to CNN's Chris Burns for the very latest. And Chris, while there hasn't been an official commitment from the White House, the president would be meeting with those POWs or former POWs. Is there still pretty good chance that he just might be having some kind of face-to-face confrontations with them or meetings with them?
Well, Frederica, no commitment yet from the White House, but we do leave out the possibility, and they do not rule out the possibility that the president will be meeting with those 2 former POWs, the Apache pilots, when he does go to Fort Hood to celebrate Easter with the troops there. Of course, half the troops of the 40,000 there are right now in the Gulf, and he's going to be paying tribute to them. The president was there back in January, actually, with them, of course, long before the war began, and he will be meeting again with them. If he does meet with the former POWs, it will probably be in private, as he's done with previous cases of former POWs or those who were injured. He does prefer that to be private, perhaps some still pictures from that. The president busy today, though, clearing brush in his ranch and also having an intelligence briefing with some of his aides. The president, of course, looking ahead to the coming week is going to be very tough. Both on the domestic and the international agenda. The president did pass through St. Louis to go to the Boeing plant late last week, where he made some comments on both issues, both pushing on Congress to, when they come back from their Easter recess, to pass his tax cut. The president is pushing for $550 billion, although the Senate is saying they'll go no more than $350 billion. This is part of the president's offensive. Dozens of officials from the Bush administration fanning out across more than half the states in the country in the coming weeks to try to push that issue. Also, the president, of course, talking about Iraq, and that is an issue that is also preoccupying the Bush administration. There will be talks at the United Nations on Tuesday about how to go forward, whether to lift those sanctions. Let's give you a list of some of those issues that the president's going to be dealing with on Iraq. First of all, recognizing the new Iraqi government. That is something that's very, very contentious, very spiny. How many who should be in the government from the exiles, how many from within Iraq? We've seen the protests in Iraq in the last few days by Muslim Shiites and Sunnis demanding that they have more of a voice in that government. So it's been very, very contentious. Second of all, certifying Iraq as being free of weapons of mass destruction. That has been a very spiny debate with the UN itself. The Bush administration so far up to now bringing in former weapons inspectors to do the job. But will they allow the Hans Blix crew to go in and look? That is remaining to be a question. Also, lifting economic sanctions, also very important. If you lift the sanctions, Iraq can start selling its oil and perhaps raising the money it needs to rebuild Iraq. And last of all, unfreezing Iraqi assets, same thing. It's going to cost a lot of money to build Iraq, and it's going to take a lot of that money. Also, contentious issues with the United Nations that have to be worked out. The formal meetings beginning on Tuesday. President looking ahead to that. He comes back on Monday. Frederica? All
right, Chris, and another hot-button issue, North Korea. It had been said at the latter part of last week that perhaps Washington would no longer be involved in upcoming talks involving North Korea, and then there was some backpedaling. What's the latest on whether those talks will indeed take place still?
Well, the indications are from here that there will be those talks, that apparently the communication that the North Koreans gave last week talking about reprocessing a lot of its nuclear fuel that could be made into weapons-grade nuclear ingredients, and that issue, apparently it does appear that message was mistranslated. It does look like they stopped short of reprocessing, and so those talks will go ahead. Of course, the spiny issue there is the U.S. is pushing for a broader sort of group multilateral talks with the North Koreans. North Koreans wanting just to talk with the Americans on getting a non-aggression pact. Apparently, this will be talks about talks in the coming week in Beijing. Those talks appear to be going ahead. And then the next question is whether South Korea and Japan can join in as Washington is pushing. We'll have to see. see how those talks pan out.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Thank you very much. Well, families of the 7 American POWs will be reunited with their loved ones in a matter of hours now. But the mother of an Iraqi soldier is still waiting, wondering if her son will come back from the front lines. CNN's Carl Penhall has the story.
Missing in action, Iraqi soldier Adnan Abbas. His mother, Nihaya Salman, talked to him just 2 days before the war began. Since then, nothing. Adnan was a conscript in a front-line combat unit, the Magawir company that clashed with US forces about 120 miles southeast of here, the city of An-Najaf. An Iraqi officer who was wounded but escaped sent word that Adnan and his fellow soldiers surrendered and were taken prisoner. As Nihaya fixes food for her other 4 children, she has a hard time choking back the tears. As his mother, I have pain in my heart. This is my son, and I don't want to lose him, she says. I want him beside me. Just imagine the feelings of a mother who's lost her son. Red Crescent officials here in An-Najaf say at least 125 families have so far reported husbands and sons missing. Coalition forces have taken several thousand Iraqis as prisoners of war. Now hostilities are over, those families are wondering when their loved ones will be free to come home. On his day's leave from the army, Adnan worked here in downtown An-Najaf. He's a skillful silversmith and used the extra income, on top of his $2 per month army pay, to support his family. Like all young Iraqi men, Adnan was forced to do military service. His brother Jamil says he hated Saddam Hussein and his regime. Nobody in our country supports Saddam Hussein because he tortures and imprisons our people. Nobody supports him. A spokesman at US Forces Central Command in Qatar said there was no complete list of the 6,800 Iraqi POWs being held by coalition forces. He declined to confirm if Adnan's name was among those so far registered. But US military sources say some of the prisoners are already being released.
This policy under the Geneva Convention indicates that we're supposed to release individuals as quickly as humanly possible. Frequently that normally means at the end of hostilities. Sometimes it can be sooner than that.
And when her son finally comes home, Nihaya can begin enjoying life free from the fallen regime of Saddam Hussein. Carl Penhall, CNN, An-Najaf, Iraq.
Coming up, there have been many changes for Iraqis over the past few weeks.
About 1 month ago, I can't go, I can't speak. I have satellite. I can't speak.
We'll take a look at how Baghdad has been dished up to a whole new world thanks to satellite television. And a clash between Palestinian and Israeli troops leaves a Palestinian cameraman dead. Our Kelly Wallace takes a closer look when we come right back.
We're really close, and we need to talk constantly, even when we're not together. So we need a calling plan that lets us talk as much as we want, whenever we want, at no extra charge.
With Cingular's Family Talk plan, call each other for free with unlimited mobile-to-mobile calling. Get 5,000 night and weekend minutes to share, up to 3 additional lines, and up to 4 free phones.
We call it the Jordy and Julie sister-to-sister plan.
Come into Cingular now to find the plan that fits you best.
What's wrong, hon?
I brought the wrong color. I can't go out like this.
I guess we're not going out then.
I'll get my coat.
There's no place like Outback for our new center cut filet. Outback Steakhouse. No rules, just right.
They were inspected 2 years ago.
Well, you should have your brakes checked every year.
You know, there's a big difference in the quality of brake parts. Bargain brakes are no bargain. That's why I trust my car to Jim, because he only uses Raybestos brand brakes.
I'm never taking my car to another place again.
I've earned my customers' trust by only installing premium quality Raybestos brakes.
A life-saving reminder from Raybestos.
Behind Saddam's closed doors, CNN Tomorrow go inside the private playground of a tyrant, what his people sacrificed for his lavish lifestyle. A CNN special presentation, Inside the Regime, CNN Tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern.
Under the Saddam Hussein regime, Iraqis could only watch government-approved television channels. Now that their remote controls are no longer under Saddam's control, the Iraqi people have a new way of connecting to the rest of the world. CNN's Michael Holmes explains.
On a Baghdad street, a man can't quite believe what he has seen. A popular restaurant with something new on the menu. Without having to look over their shoulders, customers watch a news broadcast from another country on satellite TV. Television wasn't banned in Iraq under Saddam Hussein, as long as it broadcast only what he wanted people to see. This was illegal. In a city starved for facts and feasting on rumour, it is what people crave, information.
I feel happy and free. We can have satellite now. Before, when Saddam was in power, it was illegal.
Karim Al-Rubai owns this restaurant and now proudly displays what he used to hide.
I had to keep his secret, hidden away from anyone who might see the receiver or the dish. And if it was seen, I would have been found guilty of a crime according to Saddam Hussein's regime and Ba'ath Party.
Karim's brother Mohammed has become quite the entrepreneur. Instead of watching satellite TV, he's selling the receivers, smuggled in from the north but soon to be brought in the front door, rather than from the back of a truck. $300 for a receiver, and they are selling.
Yes, I sell now.
What if you had tried to sell this 1 month ago?
About 1 month ago, I can't go. I can't speak. I have satellite. I can't speak.
People speak often about a return to normality here in Baghdad, but legal satellite television is not normal. It is something entirely new.
You seem very happy about satellite TV.
I think so. I think it's very happy.
Michael Holmes, CNN, Baghdad.
Millions of Shiite Muslims in Iraq could soon be heading to Karbala. They're making the pilgrimage to one of the holiest sites. It's something they were not allowed to do when Saddam Hussein was in power. CNN's Nick Robertson joins us from Baghdad with the very latest. Nick?
Frederica, we're seeing a number of changes today on the east side of the city of Baghdad today. Marines who fought their way into the city have now pulled out. They've been replaced by the 3rd Infantry Division. This is essentially a change from a combat force to a force that will be here to control and ensure the stability and security of this part of the city. Not exactly a policing force, but definitely here to establish and maintain security that everybody wants. And towards that, we've seen the Iraqi police, or at least some of the traffic police today, being handed out AK-47 weapons on the streets. That comes with the U.S. infantry's blessing at this time. This is an effort to help restore security and make sure that Iraqis begin to abide by their old laws and stop the looting. The looting does seem to be going on, and security is still certainly an issue. One of the groups, international aid groups, that's having a problem with security right now, the World Food Programme, has 52 trucks of food stuck some 60 miles west of Baghdad in a town called Ramadi. CNN's correspondent Reem Brahimi was passing there earlier in the day. Some of those truck drivers carrying the wheat flour came up and asked her if it was safe to continue. She said she couldn't tell them, but they said that they'd had shots fired near their convoy 5 days before, and they've been stuck waiting for the military, waiting for the U.S. military to tell them that it was safe to drive into Baghdad. Indeed, they said if they weren't told that it was safe pretty soon, then they were going to turn around and drive the 250 miles back to Jordan, which is where they came from 5 days ago. We've also seen, as you said, those Shiite Muslims walking towards Karbala. Karbala, some 60 miles south of Baghdad. It has the historic resting places of Imam Abbas and Imam Hussein, the sons of Imam Ali, the most revered Shia leader, whose own shrine is fairly close by in the town of Najaf, about 120 miles south of Baghdad. The Shias expect to get there for a big celebration, the 40th day after the anniversary of the death of Imam Ali. They will be there in Karbala on Wednesday to celebrate that. Likely many millions of them making their way there, and some of them we saw today, Frederica, walking barefoot down the roads towards Karbala.
And Nick, we saw from those pictures that police are back on the beat. They've gotten the arms, as you have explained. But what's the holdup with the water and the power? Why is it that people still don't have those resources?
Everyone is asking that question, Frederica. From what we're being told, it's the power lines are the issue. The power generating station, engineers say, is ready to go back online. The oil flow they need from the nearby oil refinery is ready and working. But what they believe are broken at this time are the electricity power lines, the power grid. The U.S. military has been lending Iraqi engineers helicopters to fly them up and down those power lines to find out where the problems, where the breaks are. What they say they need is enough electricity to provide a huge power surge into the grid when they switch it back on. It's also very possible that some of the looters have been looting from some of the smaller electrical substations, so of course switching on the power could be dangerous until those problems are fixed as well. Frederica?
All right, still a volatile situation. Nick in Baghdad, thank you very much. Well, coming up, we'll take a look at the top stories at this hour, and one Texas company has hit the jackpot after taking a gamble on Iraq's most wanted. CNN's complete coverage of today's headlines. Scott Peterson in jail, suspected of murdering his pregnant wife, Lacey. 7 former POWs just hours away from stepping back onto U.S. soil. And Iraq's neighbors call for the U.S. to make a fast exit. All this and more at 8 Eastern. Stay with CNN, the most trusted name in news.
It's a 120-mile detour from the rest of the world. The Florida Keys and Key West. Come as you are.
I'll get this. Getting a really low rate on this card.
Well, I hope it's a low fixed rate, like my Capital One no hassle card.
Low and fixed? So what's going to happen to my rate?
Check your mailbox for the Capital One no hassle card offer and get the nation's lowest fixed rates.
What's in your wallet? CNN Tonight, the 7 former POWs are back on U.S. soil today. Their families share their joy only on Larry King Live. CNN Tonight, 9 East.
Restaurants have been part of the Demas family for generations. Over the years, they perfected unique recipes from the world over. Today, they serve the area's finest steaks, seafood, pasta, and chicken. For lunch or dinner, experience a legacy of fine food and superior service. The Demas family difference. Demas's in Murfreesboro, Nashville, and Lebanon.
Yeah.
Hello, Mr. Greer. I've got other customers waiting to test drive the DeVille.
Yeah.
Is he leaving already?
Work. Never ends.
Cadillac DeVille. Breakthrough.
0% financing for 60 months on all new 2003 Cadillac models. Visit your Middle Tennessee Cadillac.
CNN, the most trusted name in news.
And hello, everyone. I'm Arthel Neville. In about a minute, we're going to have an update on the latest players to fall from the coalition's most wanted list. But before we do that, a look at the top stories this half hour. On Easter Eve, Pope John Paul II leads a solemn candlelight vigil in St. Peter's Basilica at the Vatican. The Saturday night service marks the time after Christ died, but before his resurrection. The loved ones of 7 former POWs are counting the hours until they return home. They had been held captive in Iraq for nearly 3 weeks. Their plane is expected to land in Fort Bliss, Texas, sometime between 8 and 10 p.m. Eastern. U.S. troops come under fire in Pakistan. A Central Command official says the service members were traveling in a Pakistani military helicopter when 3 of them were shot. I'm Arthel Neville. That's a look at the headlines this half hour. Now back to you, Frederica.
All right, thanks, Arthel. Well, what does it take to beat the 8 of diamonds? How about the U.S. Marines and Iraqi police? Excuse me. They captured Iraq's former Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister, Hikmat al-Azawi. He is the 8 of diamonds in the coalition's deck of most wanted Iraqis. CNN's Patty Davis brings us the details now.
Iraqi protesters marched on Baghdad, their demand that American troops leave. The U.S. says that's what it plans to do as soon as its work is done. The U.S. is making progress in Job 1, finding former Iraqi officials. The latest capture, the 8 of diamonds of the U.S. top 55 most wanted. Hikmat al-Azawi, Iraq's former deputy prime minister and finance minister.
He was actually captured by Iraqi police force and turned over to us. And that's a clear indication of how smoothly things are working now with the initial transition of U.S. forces giving way to the local Iraqi police.
The U.S. hopes al-Azawi can help lead them to hidden Iraqi wealth that it says was looted from Iraq's Oil for Food program. Even without al-Azawi, U.S. troops stumbled upon hundreds of millions of U.S. dollars in Baghdad, $650 million according to the L.A. Times. Officials are hoping another big catch could aid in the search for Iraq's so far elusive weapons of mass destruction. Imad Hussein al-Ani, believed to have led Iraq's VX nerve agent program, turned himself in to U.S. troops inside Iraq.
Clearly, we have been lacking first top quality information, and this should definitely improve the nature of the information that we have. So we should be seeing some improvements in that search in the near future.
Also surrendering to U.S. forces, a member of the Palestinian terrorist group Abu Nidal, Hala Qadr al-Salahat, who turned himself into Marines in Baghdad. So far, though, no signs of Saddam Hussein or his sons. And while the search continues, so do the dangers for U.S. forces and Iraqi civilians in what's believed to have been an accident. 4 U.S. troops and an Iraqi child were injured today when the child tried to turn over part of an unexploded cluster bomb. Well, it detonated when one of those soldiers tried to remove it from that child's hand. Frederica?
And Patty, on the most wanted list, 5 in custody right now, 50 more to go. Does the coalition force expect to actually get all 55 in the end?
Well, it's certainly working towards that. And if you ask anybody here at the Pentagon, they would tell you yes. But where officials believe that these other 50 most likely are somewhere in northwest Iraq, either trying to get into Syria, transit through Syria somehow, or perhaps go to Libya. But they believe they're tracking them down, and they're hoping that they'll be able to bring most of them in and perhaps try some of them for war crimes. Frederica?
All right, Patty, at the Pentagon, thank you. The arrest of Iraq's former finance minister means 5 out of the 55 most wanted Iraqis depicted on those famous playing cards are in custody. And you might be interested to know where those custom-made cards came from. Reporter Dawn Tongish of affiliate KDAF in Dallas has the answer.
Pictures of Iraqi fugitives are rolling off the presses at Liberty Playing Card Company. The search for Saddam and his regime leaders has the Arlington business humming, printing Iraq's most wanted list on a deck of cards.
We have the Saddam Hussein as the ace of spades, most important guys to catch.
Owner Mohammed Kamal says he and his partner took a gamble, thinking the government would need a lot of the cards now being handed out overseas. Last week, the two started printing and put a notice on their website. After that came a call from the U.S. Embassy in Kuwait, ordering thousands.
Well, that's fun and exciting. That's our business, playing cards.
Liberty produces playing cards for a lot of companies. Here's Dow Chemical. Over here is Beck's Beer. But lately, business has been a little slow. Not now, because it took a gamble on these Iraqi bad guys. They've hit the jackpot. The orders for the hot cards are pouring in. The company is cranking out 5,000 a day. The government's order with this special U.S. Embassy stamp is Liberty's largest ever.
I just started keeping score kind of on when I hear who got captured or whatever.
Employee Wade O'Donnell crosses out each Iraqi as they're nabbed. He's thrilled his company is playing a role in their capture.
Well, that was really something. When I found out we were going to do it, I couldn't believe it. I thought it was really great. Yeah, that we would be the ones to do this.
So far, Liberty is the only company printing the cards, and the deck is stacked in its favor that this venture will pay off. At least until the faces on the cards, right up to the ace of spades, are no longer. In Dallas, Dawn Tongish for CNN.
Coming up shortly here on CNN, violence claims the life of a cameraman covering the clash for Associated Press. We'll tell you where it happened. In Hong Kong, 12 SARS deaths in 24 hours. Health officials call it a setback in their investigation. And American Airlines flight attendants say the execs can't expect wage sacrifices while cutting themselves a sweet deal.
Moving freely makes my spirits soar.
Discover new Flexium, a unique supplement for joint health.
I feel wonderfully carefree with less stiffness.
Flexium works in two ways. Only Flexium combines a patented form of SAMe to help ease pain from everyday activities, plus glucosamine to help renew cartilage. You can feel results in as little as 2 weeks. Feel the Flexium difference in your joints. Guaranteed.
Andy, what's going on?
Dave, we think Phil quit. No one's seen him in days, so we're cleaning out his office.
He just sent me an email.
What?
Phil's been in planning meetings over at the conference center. You do know, with his Dell notebook in wireless land, Phil doesn't have to be in his office to be working.
I knew that. No, I didn't. Smart move, though.
Give your company the freedom of wireless with new Dell Latitude D family notebooks on a Dell wireless network solution. With the outstanding mobile performance of new Intel Centrino mobile technology, Dell can make your entire organization more productive.
Will you hold this?
New Dell D family notebooks and wireless network solutions can help you get more out of your enterprise for less. Easy as Dell. Call or go online today. Dell Latitude D family notebooks use Intel Centrino mobile technology.
Israel is investigating how a cameraman was shot and killed during a clash between Israeli troops and Palestinians. It happened today in the West Bank city of Nablus. CNN's Kelly Wallace reports now.
In Nablus's historic old city, a clash between Palestinian stone throwers, armed Palestinians, and Israeli soldiers. The Israeli military says its troops were trying to leave the West Bank town after arresting 2 Palestinian women, one accused of recruiting suicide bombers, the other of planning a suicide attack in the coming days, when an Israeli armored vehicle breaks down. A tank begins towing it through a narrow alleyway when a group of Palestinians rush up. One grabs something from the Israeli vehicle. The crowd runs away after shots are fired. The Israeli Defense Forces says some Palestinians were throwing Molotov cocktails and shooting, and that the Israelis were returning fire. Photographers wearing yellow press vests move closer. Among them, 44-year-old Nazi Darwaza, a Palestinian cameraman who normally works for Palestinian TV, but on this day was freelancing for Associated Press television. A few moments later, the tank accidentally slams the vehicle into a concrete wall. At least 16 Palestinians, mostly school children, were injured, Palestinian sources said. Moments later, an Israeli soldier crouching under the vehicle fires a shot. Journalists console themselves learning Darwaza was shot in the head and died. It is not known if the deadly bullet came from the Israeli soldier. A Reuters photographer on the scene says the soldier fired directly at the journalists, including Darwaza, who were taking cover in an alleyway. An Israeli military spokeswoman denies that, saying that armed Palestinians were taking cover in the same place as the journalists and that the Israeli soldiers were returning fire. The father of 4 mourned at a funeral Saturday, becomes at least the 4th journalist killed in the current uprising since September 2000. The Israeli Defense Forces says it regrets the loss of any life and that the incident will be investigated. It comes as both sides wait for a so-called roadmap to Middle East peace to be announced. But on this day, hopes for a peace deal seem far away. Kelly Wallace, CNN, Jerusalem.
If you've been tracking the SARS virus, this has been a discouraging day. Hong Kong reported 12 deaths over the past 24 hours, and that's the most so far in any given day. Plus, the virus has now shown up in India. That, too, is a first. So far, World Health Organization officials say more than 3,500 people have been diagnosed with the killer form of pneumonia, and a total of 182 people across the globe have died from it. Health officials think the virus originated in mainland China last year, and now, as CNN's Jamie Fleur-Cruz reports, many are accusing the Chinese government of covering up the severity of the killer disease, and they want that to stop.
Behind tightly sealed windows in this Beijing hospital ward, SARS patients undergo intensive care.
We must wear protective suits, gloves and shoes before we can go near patients.
China has reported more than 1,400 cases of infection nationwide, nearly half the world's total. But just how big SARS is in China remains a nagging question. Officials say there are only 37 SARS cases and 4 deaths in Beijing, but a team of World Health Organization experts say the figures did not include those from military hospitals.
I think the team found that there are more cases in Beijing than reported.
Health officials a week ago claimed SARS was under effective control, confined mostly to the southern province of Guangdong. But SARS has spread across the country, and top leaders are alarmed. They have called for an end to cover-ups.
Today, any Chinese government leader would be punished if they cover up any information which is important to public.
In train stations, passengers are handed leaflets on SARS, part of a public information campaign which has prompted residents to take preventive measures like wearing masks. Doctors work hotlines, taking questions from anxious callers. Pharmacies do brisk business selling traditional medicine. But trying to bottle up the disease calls for sacrifices.
Just like after 9/11, the American people immediately gathered around the American president. And so the whole nation are fighting against terrorism. And now the Chinese needed to unite and against this terrible disease.
Hundreds of thousands of Chinese are expected to travel during the week-long May Day holidays. But for officials anxious to contain the spread of SARS in China, such a massive movement of people could turn the week of rest and recreation into a public health nightmare. Jamie Fleur-Cruz, CNN, Beijing.
Possibly more trouble for financially strapped American Airlines. Just when it looked like the world's largest carrier was going to avoid filing for bankruptcy, it hit a financial snag on the ground. More from Rebecca Lopez of our Dallas, Texas affiliate WFAA.
Now?
Yeah. All of us. Hundreds of American Airlines employees protested in Oklahoma Friday morning. Employees have been outraged after learning American planned to give 6 of its top managers big bonuses for staying with the company. Union leaders say they feel like they've been duped. The Flight Attendants Union says it is rescinding its agreement to take concessions and plans to reballot its members, despite an apology from CEO Don Carty.
It's really too little, too late. The damage has been done. We went through and entered into this negotiating process in good faith.
Carty taped a message to employees apologizing because he didn't disclose the bonuses during negotiations with the unions.
And you have my personal apology. It was never, ever my intent to mislead anyone.
The company says the retention bonuses were set up to keep executives from leaving.
At some point, our management does need to get paid. You know, we can only cut so far. Sooner or later, they're going to have to earn some money. But they said, in this case, we're going to step up. We're going to give up these retention agreements, and because we think it's the right thing to do.
Some employees we talked to say they were happy about management's decision to give up the bonuses.
The fact that they canceled it shows that, you know, we're all on the same ship, and, you know, we got to keep it from sinking. So I'm glad to see it.
But others say they've lost trust in the company and say nothing management says now will repair that trust.
That was Rebecca Lopez of WFAA, our CNN affiliate in Dallas, Texas. And one last footnote, the flight attendants have not set a new date for another vote on the wage cuts. April 19th, marked by a series of tragedies. Remember this scene in Waco, Texas. 10 years ago, it was April 19th, and so was the Oklahoma City bombing 8 years ago, taking place on April 19th. And the Columbine massacre occurred 4 years ago on Sunday. We'll look at those dates of infamy and see if there's any other common link when CNN Saturday continues.
Last
Last night, I watched my daughter sleeping, smelling of soap and tangle-free shampoo, and suddenly the responsibility of preparing that little human being for the world was overwhelming. I'm 36 and single, and I'm strong. That's why I'm here.
If you're searching for something to believe in, for your children to believe in, our hearts, our minds, and our doors are always open. The people of the United Methodist Church.
CNN Monday, embedded reporters back from the front lines. What happened when the cameras weren't rolling? American Morning, CNN Monday, 7 Eastern.
No power? Call 234-0000 to report an outage.
Oh, man. VHIX.com lets you comparison shop for cars online. You can compare two cars, feature for feature, then compare the better car to two other cars. So VHIX is the best way to find the one car for you. VHIX.com.
New Nissans are popping up all over Action Nissan this spring. The all-new redesigned Maximas, a true four-door sports car starting at only $27,780. The hot new 350Z, named Automobile Magazine's Car of the Year, starting at only $26,986. Or the powerful 245-horsepower V6 Murano, starting at only $26,986. With over 300 vehicles on the ground waiting to be picked, now is the time to spring into action. Only at Tennessee's #1 Nissan dealer, Action Nissan.
CNN, the most trusted name in news.
Some of America's most tragic moments are marking anniversaries this weekend. 8 years ago today, an explosion gutted the 9-story Alfred P. Murrah building in Oklahoma City. 168 people were killed in that bombing, including 19 children. Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols were tried and convicted for the bombing. McVeigh was executed in 2001, and Nichols is serving life in prison. Tomorrow marks the 4th anniversary of the massacre at Columbine High School in Colorado. It was just after lunchtime when students Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold opened fire on their classmates. When the gunshots ended, 12 students and 1 teacher were killed. Harris and Klebold committed suicide. In Texas, you only have to say the word Waco to bring back memories. 10 years ago today, Branch Davidian leader David Koresh and his followers died in a standoff with federal agents. Gary Reeves with CNN affiliate WFAA says a decade later, the community is still healing.
They are the pictures burned into the memory of the world, and with them the name of the nearest city, Waco. But Waco is really miles away, and visitors there would be hard-pressed to find any sign of the tragedy, unless they look here at the local museum founded by Helen Taylor.
Because I feel that it was an assault on our Bill of Rights, every one of us.
Taylor has strong opinions about what happened to the Branch Davidians, but the exhibit offers an even-handed view, starting with when the separatist sect arrived in Waco in the 30s.
This will show you that they printed their own money, you see here.
What? Its centerpiece, a detailed model of the compound. But when Baylor's museum science students first proposed the exhibit, Taylor says no other local museum wanted it.
Waco, in my opinion, has been in a state of denial about this all these years. They just wish it hadn't happened here. It's rather like Dallas, that just wishes that Jack Kennedy had not been killed in Big D.
But it's not in the forefront like you would think it would be.
Only on these anniversaries does Sheriff Larry Lynch think much about the 51-day standoff, even though he's the negotiator who convinced David Koresh to release the first 4 children.
To me, that was an outstanding moment. The other part was to get the ceasefire and get the wounded agents out. Those were the 2 things that I really feel good about.
But for many in Waco, the tragic ending overshadows the few good moments.
It wears you out as a community, and people would wish it had never happened, wish it would go away. But that's just wishful thinking.
It took 10 years for the principals involved in the standoff to hold their first panel discussion. Sponsored by a local grief counseling group, Hand in Hand, they concluded the community is okay, but still grieving.
I think that the big concern about the tragedy of it all was the loss of the children. because they were children that they never saw and they never were able to put a face to.
Those faces haunt anyone who visits the site of the tragedy today. Friends and supporters of the original Branch Davidians have built a chapel here. They will never forget.
Where we're standing is probably right about where the front doors originally were.
Today it's a site of many memorials. A plaque for the agents who died trying to enforce the law. A tree for each Branch Davidian who died for religious reasons few others will ever understand.
And that was Gary Reeves with CNN affiliate WFAA. Well, still ahead, a closer look at the fantasies of a tyrant. An American artist is shocked to discover her art adorning the walls of one of Saddam Hussein's love nests. We'll take a closer look when CNN Live Saturday returns in a moment. CNN's complete coverage of today's headlines. Scott Peterson in jail, suspected of murdering his pregnant wife, Lacey. 7 former POWs just hours away from stepping back onto U.S. soil. And Iraq's neighbors call for the U.S. to make a fast exit. All this and more at 8 Eastern. Stay with CNN, the most trusted name in news.
Has anybody checked the interior?
Some of the finest leather I've ever seen.
Premium leather?
Rear seat DVD entertainment system.
Entertainment system?
And navigation.
Power rear door.
11 speaker Mark Levinson audio.
Mark Levinson audio?
It's a camera.
It's a rear view camera.
Introducing the entirely new Lexus RX 330. Putting the world on notice again.
Oh, hey, hi, I'm Baker. Don't mind me, I'm just a dermatophyte. You know, a nail infection. All I want is to get in here and live under your nail. You can't get me with clippers or those surface treatments you try on your own. I'm in too deep in your nail bed. I'll make myself comfortable and invite a few friends. Settle in.
Do you have thick, discolored, or flaky nails? Millions of people do. It may be caused by an active live infection. That's why you should ask your doctor about prescription-only Lamisil. Unlike surface treatments, Lamisil is a pill that works through the bloodstream to target and attack the infection at its source, underneath the nail. In fact, you can start to see clearer, healthier nails in just 3 months. Lamisil isn't for people with liver or kidney problems. Barely serious side effects in the liver or serious skin reactions have occurred, so your doctor may do blood tests. Other side effects including headache, diarrhea, indigestion, and rash were generally mild. Ask your doctor about Lamisil. It's the #1 brand for treating infected nails. Once daily Lamisil tablets. Get your nail infection where it grows.
Last night, I watched my daughter sleeping, smelling of soap and tangle-free shampoo, and suddenly the responsibility of preparing that little human being for the world was overwhelming. I'm 36 and single, and I'm strong. That's why I'm here.
If you're searching for something to believe in, for your children to believe in, our hearts, our minds, and our doors are always open. The people of the United Methodist Church.
U.S. soldiers make fun of the 60s-style love shack they found among Saddam Hussein's safe houses in Baghdad, but no one is more astonished over the art adorning its walls than the artist. CNN's Jeannie Mose reports.
Imagine seeing photos of American soldiers in Saddam Hussein's Baghdad love shack, and the paintings you spy on the walls are yours. No wonder the artist known as Rowena was
utterly flabbergasted.
Who knew that Saddam Hussein would be into what's called fantasy art, a genre known for buxom damsels and fearsome demons?
I mean, it's all in good fun, campy.
Soldiers rummaging through safe houses owned by Iraq's former ruler and his sons described Saddam's as straight out of the 60s, with mirrors around the bed and shag carpeting. We're told the decor inspired soldiers tromping through to do their best Austin Powers imitations.
Very shagadelic. Yeah, baby.
It turns out the babes on the wall were oils painted by Rowena to illustrate fantasy novel covers with catchy titles. Shadows Out of Hell?
Yes.
Not a bad title for a Saddam biography. Rowena Morrill is famous in the fantasy art field. Her work fills several books. Her paintings have titles like Forbidden Fragrance. Rowena's studio is located in the yellow ribbon-bedecked village of Coxsackie, New York, where residents were amazed at the Saddam connection. It boggles the mind. Yeah. Rowena doesn't know how Saddam got her paintings. She remembers selling one of them to a Japanese collector for $20,000 a decade or so ago. How does she feel about them decorating Saddam's walls?
It does give me the creeps.
But at least Iraq's King Dragon has now been deposed. Jeannie Moe, CNN, Coxsackie, New York.
Now that's what's creepy there. Well, that's it for us. Coming up, the Capital Gang. More from Mark Shields in just a moment on what the gang will be talking about at 8 o'clock Eastern, CNN Saturday evening. And at 9 Eastern, Larry King Weekend tonight. Larry's topic. And yes, the return of the POWs. But right now, Mark Shields is with us to tell us what the gang has. Mark.
Coming up next on Capital Gang, what lies ahead for Iraq after Saddam? Will the U.S. play the only role in the post-war Middle East? And will President Bush's wartime popularity save his now beleaguered tax cut plan? All that and much more right here next on CNN.
In a world of computer confusion, 3 young interns will soon learn there's one place with all the answers. A place where you can get a PC made just for you at a price that's right for you. A place where computer confusion has met its match.
Thanks for calling Dell. What can I build for you today?
Get ready. Dell presents The Interns.
So, what do you think of my movie?
Well, that's one way to make an intern training video.
Now you can get a Dimension desktop with an Intel Pentium 4 processor and a 17-inch monitor for just $499 after mail-in rebate. And right now, you'll get free shipping. Visit our website for even more great offers. And check out our notebooks, too. You're not just getting a great deal, you're getting a Dell.
Darren, about my close-ups, there could be more of them.
Rated E for easy. Easy as Dell. Dell PCs use Intel Pentium 4 processors.
Here comes dinner!
I'm not eating that.
There's no place like Outback for our new Royal Port Catch. Outback Steakhouse. No rules, just right.
CNN Monday. Embedded reporters back from the front lines. What happened when the cameras weren't rolling? American Mornings, CNN Monday, 7 Eastern.
Yo, what's going on? My name is Eminem. You want the latest in music news? Watch the TV Guide channel.
I'm Katie Wagner, host of TV Guide Channel's Music News, a show that keeps you up to date and informed on today's hottest performers.
You're glued to the television. You just can't get enough of it.
I want to see what's going to happen.
Katie, we love you.
Watch yourself. Watch Music News at 25 past the hour on TV Guide Channel.
TV Guide Channel. Don't miss a thing, baby.
Selection plus savings equals satisfaction.
The 2003 PT Cruiser, it was $17,605. Get it now for only $13,588 after rebate. The 2003 Grand Cherokee 4x4 was $29,720, now only $22,988. The 2003 Town & Country van was $28,30, now only $19,988.
Selection plus savings equals satisfaction.
Alexander Chrysler Jeep in beautiful downtown Franklin.
CNN, the most trusted name in news.
Hello, everyone. I'm Arthel Neville. The Capital Gang is coming up in 1 minute, but first, here are the top stories at this hour. A deadly respiratory illness has spread to one of the world's most populated countries. Today, India reported its first case of severe acute respiratory syndrome, or SARS. The case involves a person who returned from a trip that included a visit to the epicenter of SARS. We're talking about Hong Kong. A World Health Organization official says the disease can target anyone.
It's a disease which does strike people of all ages. However, most of the people who die have other diseases. They have other things that weaken their immune system, and they're generally over 40. Many of them are over 60.
7 former POWs are due home in the United States within hours. The POWs were held by Iraqi forces for nearly 3 weeks and rescued by U.S. troops last weekend. The 7 soldiers left Ramstein Air Base in Germany this morning and are expected to arrive tonight at Fort Bliss in Texas between 8 and 10 Eastern Time. They found money, and lots of it, inside a Baghdad cottage this weekend. U.S. troops discovered some $650 million in cash inside sealed aluminum containers. The coalition thinks it belongs to the former regime of Saddam Hussein. I'm Arthel Neville at the CNN Center in Atlanta. Now it's time for Capitol Gang.
Live from Washington, the Capitol Gang.
Welcome to Capitol Gang. I'm Mark Shields with the full gang. Al Hunt, Robert Novak, Cato Byrne, and Margaret Carlson. With the whereabouts of Saddam Hussein unknown, Iraqi exiles and opponents of the old regime met in a tent near the birthplace of Abraham to start forming a post-war government. Margaret Carlson, is this going to be a real Iraqi government, or is the U.S. Pentagon calling the shots?
Well, we should hope in the short run that the Pentagon